Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood show. We're jamming a big monkey wrench into the pedophile network of the United Kingdom with my very special guest, Chris Spivey. Maybe jamming a big monkey wrench into the pedophile network is actually a bit of a nasty image for this late at night for you, Chris. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Vinny. Can I just get back to this benefits thing, because it is important. I say we've got a situation where you've got children going hungry, job centre staff deciding who eats and who doesn't eat for the week. You have disabled people committing suicide. And this isn't an isolated case. This fellow who shot himself, blew his brains out all over the front lawn. Far from an isolated case. And on top of that, there's no jobs. Say eight vacancies, 1,700 applicants, minimum wage. Yet we're paying £60,000 a week to subsidise the House of Lords canteen. You know, we're paying the 60. We can't afford to eat ourselves. Yeah, we're paying £60,000 week in, week out to pay for. And they're all paedophiles, mate. I can connect fleas to every single one of the 760 lords and the 650 MPs in Parliament. Some sort of sleaze, either be it fiddling their expenses. Yeah, people are losing their homes and we're paying their mortgages on their second house. You know, the poorest people in society, they don't pay their TV licence. They're up in court. Yeah, we're paying for the MPs' TV licences. What other job could you get where someone paid for your second home and and paid for your TV licence, paid for your expenses? We had our Chancellor, George Osborne, bought a standard class rail ticket, sat in first class, got caught, big thing in the papers over here, got caught, refused to budge. Well, why didn't you just buy a first class ticket? Because they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to. But he thought he had the right to travel first class on a standard fare ticket. Do you know, they just don't live in the real world, mate. They don't. Yeah, this is a man who, I mean, 2005 it was exposed for taking cocaine with a prostitute. Now, it came out all okay with him, but only because of a man called Andy Coulson, who went on to work for the Prime Minister, who George Osborne apparently recommended him. Now, this Andy Coulson's up in court for the phone hacking scandal that's happened over here, where we're hacking into everybody's phones with Rebecca Brooks. So now, it was also coming in the paper that Cameron and Rebecca Brooks was sending each other lovey-dovey text messages, you know, and the furtive look and whatnot. You know. And it's just 100% sad, but they don't realise, or people don't realise, should I say, what these people are doing to them. You know, so far the middle classes have been relatively untouched. It's all the poorer people who are a lot more aware of what is going on around them. But there's this fear, and this is what I tell people in my blogs all the time. Vinny, you know, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? You know, what is going to happen? Oh, you know, I've seen so many times this fellow's going to meet an accident. Well, I'm still here. I'm still here, mate, and I've named people. They say I named Rolf Harris 5 months ago, and I've repeatedly named. You look on my website there. There's 5 or 6 articles on him. The Montford galleries, who he's working for, they're absolutely shitting themselves. This was going to come out, and it has come out yesterday. I say it came out in the mainstream media. But I was contacted by one of their artists. And the official line that because he is their biggest asset, and they're fine about going under. Well, I don't know how they're going to get on now. He's been named, but people are just so scared. There's this climate of fear, and well, what they're going to do with what they're going to do to you? We're not living, we're existing over here, and it's getting worse and worse, and people can't see it. And the clap, we just had Cyprus where they've taken the people. That's going to happen over here. People don't keep your money in the bank, people, because
the New Zealand government. The New Zealand government is saying, "Hey, what they did in Cyprus was a great idea. Let's start trying it here." They already announced it like on the same day, pretty much.
It's robbery. It's just out and out robbery, Vinny.
Yeah. And here's the point. People are like worried. Oh, what if they put me in jail or something like that? What if they do?
Exactly.
Bro, what if they execute you later on because you didn't do anything?
Exactly, and this is what, and it is this sort of the Nazi, the Third Reich mentality, say nothing, keep in the shadows, go along with what everybody thinks, and that is going to be our downfall, mate. It's going to be our downfall, because if people do not start waking up very quickly, they're going to be in a lot of trouble. Already, I say that there's children starving in this country. There's the secret courts. They're stealing children. And just today, yesterday, sorry, the NSPCC, who I was talking about, who employed the MK terrorist, the mass murderer, as a grief counsellor, who is incidentally still a counsellor today, and was still registered with the General Social Care Council, because they have to re-register. All social workers have to re-register every 2 years. Yeah, he's still being employed, even though he originally fraudulently registered with the managers of the NSPCC helping him to register, And I say, but they've been in the paper again today, saying that 500,000 kids are being abused in their homes. Well, they get money from the government to investigate these cases. So if they know there's 500,000 children being abused in their homes, why aren't they investigating it, then, Vinny? Why are they just saying, it's not good, but we need more powers? What they're saying by need more powers is what they mean is that they want to be able to take children away from the pet before they're even in the world. And I've had friends at the Fleet of Ireland, who have never been convicted of an offence, never even been to court. Didn't go to court, get found not guilty, never even taken to court. Had their children taken off. They've at the Fleet of Ireland, and we're sort of 5 years later. They flew to Ireland on the advice of an MP over here who supposedly campaigns, but I don't listen to it because they've all bent. The whole 650, mate. They might call themselves campaigning MPs, but all they've got is their own welfare at heart. But under his advice, they flew to Southern Ireland, and they still had the child taken off of them, even though they have never been convicted of any offence. There's no evidence to say that their children were abused, and still 5 years later, the case is still ongoing, Vinny. How can that be right? And they say it's for the good of the child. How can that be? The child now, lives with foster parents, visits the parents every week. That's got to screw the child up, mate. So how can they say they're doing it for the welfare of the child? 5 years later, they're bent over backwards to do all the assessments and everything. And it's not the Irish social services who are being awkward. It is the pressure they're getting from the British social services. And the British social services, they are corrupt as they come, mate, and they are stealing children. And anybody who thinks, well, there's no smoke without fire, I can tell you there's a lot of smoke and there's a lot of fire, and they are being taken illegally, and they are being taken, and they are being abused in care.
Now, I had heard that in the UK, about 100,000 children per year go missing or something like that.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. 100,000 kids.
You know where they go, Vinny, don't you?
Yeah.
You know where they don't go missing. They don't go. They're abused by the elites. They're digging up bodies on the Queen's estate, and if you dig up a body, if someone dug up a body in my back garden, they come knocking at my door. They can dig them up on the Sandringham estate and totally ignore the Queen and the duck. Well, no one we're a sovereign country. no one is supposedly above the law. And like I say, why haven't the police investigating Savile? Why haven't they been knocking on the palace door? Because all the evidence points to them being involved in paedophilia. And I say there's no other reason. I say, go back to Derek Lord, the lobbyist, who's now fled to South Africa because of my expose of him, who was originally named in Scallywag magazine. You know, he was invited to Cameron's wedding. Okay, and on my website again, there's exactly the wording of the invitation, and it's Derek Lord telling how thrilled he was. He'd been a long-time friend of Samantha Cameron's. Samantha Cameron isn't what she seems. She was good friends with the rapper Tricky from Massive Attack, drug dealer. Very good friends with him, but she makes out she's all these mumbly types, but that's a load of old bollocks. But no one will take the bull by the horns, if you like, and because they're all in it together, mate. They are all in it together, you know. And you think, well, why was Savile so in with the royal family? What? Because do you know Jimmy Savile? You must know Jimmy Savile.
I heard of him. Wasn't he in the news recently?
Mate, this is where all this paedophilia stuff has come from. David Icke named Jimmy Savile as a paedophile. I believe he was the first. I may be mistaken. I believe he was the first, but he named Savile as a paedophile and a necrophiliac back in the 90s, when he named Ted Heath, the former Prime Minister, who I said was blackmailed into taking the country into the EU, or the Common Market as it was then. And no one sued. He also named George Bush Sr. As a serial paedophile, child abuser and whatnot.
Apparently, old Daddy Bush likes to shoot up heroin while he's doing stuff to the kids.
Who? Daddy
Bush, you know, H.W. Bush, George H.W. Bush.
H.W. Bush. I mean, there's stories of Bush Jr., George W. I don't know what the W stands for.
It stands for Walker, or something.
Oh, it's Walker, is it? Yeah. I weren't sure. Someone told me it was Wanker, but I don't know. But him and
You'd
Blair.
Be forgiven for that mistake.
Sorry?
You'd be forgiven for that mistake, but go on.
I think it's more accurate than Walker anyway, mate. I mean, that man stood on top of the ruins of 9/11, stood on top and said, you're either with us or against us, on top of the people that they had killed there without...
We kill and enslave our own people. You're either with us or against us.
let us not... Was it that Obama said? Who's gay, by the way? There's a whole thing on my website about that. But what is it? Let us not tolerate conspiracy theorists.
Yeah, well, outrageous.
You know, the conspiracy theorists are actually the conspiracy facts. You know, and it is the government. I mean, the whole 9/11 thing. It was a pantomime fairy tale. You know, planes flying into steel column towers, and the heat of the jet fuel that burns 1,000 degrees below what's needed melted the steel and brought them down. Never mind all the asbestos in there that they was going to be condemned because they didn't meet the safety regulations.
Fireproof asbestos, mind you.
Hey?
Fireproof asbestos, mind you.
Yeah, exactly. Which didn't meet the regulations, so and it wasn't cost effective to.
A friend of mine, her sister has a big contracting company here, and she told her that she went to New York to do a bid on the World Trade Center for asbestos removal. And the reason why they were doing asbestos removal, or at least trying to pitch for the contract, is because the owners of the World Trade Center wanted to do controlled demolition for it, but the EPA said it would be illegal because all the dust from the asbestos would have had major health effects on everybody in New York City.
Exactly. That was condemned for me. The buildings was because the new regulations that came in didn't the asbestos levels were too high. They didn't meet the safety standards. So I say that they had the choice. And Larry Silverstein knew this when he bought the towers. Larry Silverstein sort of went from a relatively rich man to a multi-billionaire just on the strength of the Twin Towers, he bought them.
Thank God for that Thank God for that
Sorry?
double terrorism insurance, eh?
Yeah, it was, wasn't it just? Thank God for them 19 who didn't die in that inferno that melted the steel that brought down the towers in their own footprint, mate, at free full speed.
They must have been eating really, really spicy Arabian meals before getting on the plane, just so that the content of their stomachs, while engulfed in flame, would set all the all the steel on fire.
Exactly, and then mobile phones, the conversations on the mobile phones, let's roll and whatnot. I'm surprised John Wayne wasn't on that plane, to be honest with you, mate. We had a program over here, 9/11 road trip, where they was dropping eggs onto the floor to demonstrate, demonstrate how the plane sort of hit this Pennsylvanian field, and there's no wreckage. Well, apparently it tunneled itself 40 foot into the ground, and you just think, do what?
Yeah, it's just retarded. We'll be right back after the break with Chris Spivey, chrisspivey.co.uk. Back in a minute. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. It's my final segment here with the surprisingly wonderful Chris Spivey, who has a lot of very interesting commentary on the nasty, evil pedophile ring that is running the UK and pretty much the whole world. Like, I've looked into a number of activists' claims over here in New Zealand about the pedophile rings operating within child, youth and family services. Our equivalent of the CPS in the States is the same thing. This pedophile network is global. And there is a shockingly large amount of money involved here, like huge, it's unbelievable. They have massive, massive reasons, billions of reasons, I'd probably say, to keep all this hush-hush entirely. Because if anything really rises to prominence that, gives the dumbed-down general public an inkling that there really is something massive going on here, imagine the possible potential consequences.
The thing is, Vinny, I got sent a story last year, actually, from a fellow who's from New Zealand, and he fled to England from New Zealand. What it was, his 14-year-old daughter was being abused by these two St. John's ambulance men. I don't know if you're familiar with this story or not. It did make all the papers over in your part of the world. And rather than prosecute these two St. John's ambulance, it was joined by a third, although only the two abused this 14-year-old girl. They had the family was hounded out of Australia, and they're living in England now. And I say I've run the story in my article about paedophile politicians, and these two St. John's ambulance men, they're receiving the Queen's Award, our Queen, by the Governor General of the New Zealand. And I don't know whether they actually got the award in the end. As far as I know, they did. But it was a big hoo-ah. But in say your social services, instead of prosecuting these two St. John's ambulance, they said this 14-year-old girl has to be allowed to explore her sexuality. 14, having a threesome with two St. John's ambulance men, and in fact, you'd be surprised how much your part of the world gets mentioned over here. Wasn't Madeleine McCann supposedly spotted in New Zealand the other week?
I don't know who that is.
You don't know who Madeleine McCann is?
No.
Madeleine McCann was a little girl who from a British family. Prince Charles is involved in that as well, believe it or not. And they went on holiday to Portugal, and they left Madeleine and her little sister in their chalet while they joined their friends for dinner on this complex Supposedly someone broke into the chalet there, and she hasn't been seen since. Although sniffer dogs sniffed out that there'd been a body in the boot of their car and whatnot. But Prince Charles is involved in that as well, and high powerful spokesman, and the Freemasons and Leicestershire police force. Every single police force in the country is corrupt. South Yorkshire police. We talked about 7/7 earlier, Vinny. A fellow who was intelligence for South Yorkshire police told them that told the bigwigs at South Yorkshire police that it was an inside job, and he cost him his job. You got the North Yorkshire and West Yorkshire police covering up for this Jimmy Savile, friend to royalty, and the police investigation into Savile is called Operation U-Tree. Okay, and it's a clear whitewash. I say if all the articles there on my site. Go on, yeah.
What I find funny is the policeman saying that 7/7 was an inside job, and as a result of saying something's an inside job, then he's out of the job.
Yeah, this wasn't an ordinary police. This was their intelligence officer.
Oh no!
Who was going and he said I've read his report. Favell, his name is, and he says when he was compiling this report, he didn't know whether he should go with it or not, because he said all the evidence pointed to the British government and security services of carrying out this job. And he said, my conscience wouldn't let me not. So he submitted the report knowing that it was going to get him fired. But I say, this isn't like your beat officer. All our beat officers, all they do is drink and drive and whatnot, and mug people and whatnot. In fact, under Operation All, the police investigation into internet paedophiles, you'd be surprised. The top three professions are judges, teachers, and policemen who were picked up. And then you got obviously the politicians, but we've only got 650 of them.
Well, that seems like a position of power abuse, essentially. A judge can use his power, police can use their power, teachers can use their power, loud them over the kids, that kind of thing.
The thing is, Vinny, 30 years ago in this country, if you saw a policeman on the beat, he'd be on his own, you'd stop. Not me, 30 years ago, I was only a little lad. But, old woman, have you got the time? How do you get to such and such, And he was a reassuring presence on the streets. So it's 30 or 40 years ago. Now you never see a policeman on their own. They're all done up there in their combat gear, like, their battle fatigues, utility boats that Batman would be jealous of. And they're sinister. And even when you've done nothing wrong, your first reaction to seeing these is get out, move, even though you've done nothing wrong. Because, and people can't say, used to be the police cars were white, and now we got black, sinister like Batmobiles over it, and everything about them, they can't arrest anybody. When I was tattooing in a shop in a place called Shoeburyness, a seaside town in Essex, across the road from that, there was one of these special unit schools for children up to 12 years of age, problem children. Now, to me, I don't know how you can have a problem child at 12 years old, but you do. But the police were there all the time, and they come out, and there'd be two of these policemen done up in their battle gear, wrestling this little kid who you think, well, what could he do? To the floor and pinning him down, and I'm thinking, a lot of times I want to go and say, whoa, calm it down, all right? Calm it down. The kid was a midget, and I say, yeah, no doubt they are little bastards, because you can't get away with anything in schools now. The kids know their rights, so they know that the teachers can't touch them, and it has taken the respect away. I mean, I brought up my daughter since she was 6 months old on my own, and so I used to go to all the teacher the open days and whatnot, and you'd have the headmaster serving the kids drinks. I thought, blimey, that's changed since I was at school. It used to be like the kids serving the headmaster, and I'm not saying the discipline. It's just that the kids know what they can get away with. But I do not personally see how you cannot control a 12-year-old child, or 11, 12-year-old child, without having to resort to policemen bringing him out with his arms shoved up his back and kneel him in the back when he's on the floor. Do you know? And they are just bully boys. I say that they can't arrest anybody on their own. They can't. But they don't. I mean, there's a couple of videos on YouTube. One in particular by a fellow called Darren Pollard, who's an independent filmmaker over here, and it went viral. I don't know if you've seen the video, but it was a male and a female copper walking on the road, and Darren Pollard was filming them. So they've just walked onto his land and said, "Oh, stop filming, stop filming. What's your name?" He said, "I'm not telling you. I'm quite entitled. I'm a filmmaker. I know the law." And they're going, "No, it's against the law." So the male copper's turned around, and giving it all that over his radio, find out what we can do. And the female officer is antagonising the fella, trying to wind him up. And he said, "I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to bite. I'm not going to give you an excuse." But she was trying to wind him up. And for a police officer to quote a law that isn't a law is illegal. Yeah, they do. They do. Then when it finally comes that Darren Pollard was right, he quite entitled to film whoever he wants on his own property. They walked. "No, sorry, sir. Sorry to just walked off. Never said goodbye. Nothing. And that is the whole attitude of the police these days. They are a law. They're just bully boys, mate. They're bully boys.
Yeah. They're basically like, hey, we're gods. In New Zealand, we just passed a law. What's her name? Justice Sinister, Judith Collins here, passed a law that said that if you assault a police officer, even if they're off duty, even if they started the fight, it counts as assaulting an officer.
Yeah. Yeah. And they believe their own press, mate. In theory, a policeman is there to protect and serve, but they're not. They just when they qualify as policemen from the police cadet training school, they have to swear an oath to uphold the common law. Mm. They don't even know the difference between common law and statute law anyway, mate. Which is obvious. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, Chris, we've run out of time here, mate, unfortunately. Well, if you want to go check out his articles and his very well put together website, if I may say so, chrisspivey.co.uk is the website. And ladies and gentlemen, if you could please donate or subscribe to the Vinny Eastwood Show. We're in a bit of financial trouble at the moment. Really appreciate your support. See you again sometime. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Vinny Eastwood Show. We're jamming a big monkey wrench into the pedophile network of the United Kingdom with my very special guest, Chris Spivey. Maybe jamming a big monkey wrench into the pedophile network is actually a bit of a nasty image for this late at night for you, Chris. Sorry about that.
That's all right, Vinny. Can I just get back to this benefits thing, because it is important. I say we've got a situation where you've got children going hungry, job centre staff deciding who eats and who doesn't eat for the week. You have disabled people committing suicide. And this isn't an isolated case. This fellow who shot himself, blew his brains out all over the front lawn. Their mortgage is on their second house. The poorest people in society, they don't pay their TV licence. They're up in court. Yeah. We're paying for the MP's TV licences. What other job could you get where someone paid for your second home, and paid for your TV license, paid for your expenses. We had our Chancellor, George Osborne, bought a standard class rail ticket, sat in first class, got caught, big thing in the papers over here, got caught, refused to budge. Well, why didn't you just buy a first class ticket? Because they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to. But he thought he had the right to travel first class on a standard fare ticket. Do you know, they just don't live in the real world, mate. They don't. Yeah, this is a man who, I mean, 2005 it was exposed for taking cocaine with a prostitute. Now, it came out all okay with him, but and because of a man called Andy Coulson, who went on to work for the Prime Minister, who George Osborne apparently recommended him. Now, this Andy Coulson's up in court for the phone hacking scandal that's happened over here, where we're hacking into everybody's phones with Rebecca Brooks. So now, it was also coming in the paper that Cameron and Rebecca Brooks was sending each other's lovey-dovey text messages, you know, and the furtive look and whatnot. Far from an isolated case. And on top of that, there's no jobs. Say eight vacancies, 1,700 applicants, minimum wage. Yet we're paying £60,000 a week to subsidise the House of Lords canteen. You know, we're paying we can't afford to eat ourselves. Yet we're paying £60,000 week in, week out to pay for, and they're all paedophiles, mate. I can connect fleas to every single one of the 760 lords and the 650 MPs in Parliament. Some sort of sleaze, either be it fiddling their expenses. Yeah, people are losing their homes, and we're paying. And it's just 100% sad, but they don't realise, or people don't realise, should I say, what these people are doing to them. You know, so far the middle classes have been relatively untouched. It's all the poorer people who are a lot more aware of what is going on around them. But there's this fear, and this is what I tell people in my blogs all the time, Vinny. You know, what are you scared of? What are you scared of? You know, what is going to happen? Oh, you know, I've seen so many times this fellow's going to meet an accident. Well, I'm still here. I'm still here, mate. And I've named people. They say I named Rolf Harris 5 months ago, and I've repeated